Good morning. I'm Chief Matthew Williams, and I'm the Regional Commander for the Florida Highway Patrol. Here in the Southern Region, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Florida Highway Patrol's involvement in the shooting that occurred early this morning involving 3 of our troopers. The details that I provide you will be limited as the investigation is still ongoing and we are still in the process of collecting facts. Last night at approximately 10:42 p.m., FHP's Regional Communications Center received a Be on the Lookout, or BOLO, for a black Honda CRV being driven by a suspect from a homicide that had occurred earlier in the evening in West Palm Beach down in Palm Beach County. The information was broadcast to our troopers, who took swift action and began searching for the vehicle. At approximately 11:03 p.m., the vehicle was located traveling northbound on I-95 at mile marker 117 in St. Lucie County. A short time later, through a coordinated effort with the St. Lucie and Martin County Sheriff's Offices, RFHP, trooper and deputies attempted to stop the vehicle. The driver of that vehicle made the decision not to stop and attempted to flee. It is a policy of the Florida Highway Patrol to quickly terminate any pursuit as soon as practical to limit the dangers these type of suspects place on our communities, and that's exactly what we did. Our trooper immediately performed a precision immobilization technique, also known as a pit maneuver, demobilizing the suspect vehicle and bringing the pursuit to an end. Our troopers did observe the suspect to be armed with a firearm, so our troopers and deputies took cover and gave every opportunity for this suspect to surrender peacefully. Sheriff Del Toro will provide the details of the next chain of events, but ultimately, at the conclusion, 3 of our FHP troopers engaged in gunfire with the suspect. 2 FHP troopers deployed their department-issued rifle, and 1 member utilized their department-issued handgun to stop a threat of a suspect who clearly had no intentions of surrendering. The names of these troopers and how many shots were fired are not being released at this time, as the investigation is still ongoing. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has assumed the lead on the investigation, and our 3 troopers will be placed on paid administrative leave, as is our policy with any officer-involved shooting. On behalf of Executive Director Dave Kerner and the Director of the Florida Highway Patrol, Colonel Gary Howes, I want to commend our troopers for their swift and necessary actions, as well as our local and county partners, specifically Sheriff Del Toro and the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Boonseek with the Martin County Sheriff's Offices for their continued support and partnership. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Sheriff Richard Del Toro with St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. I'm just going to pick up kind of the events where the chief left off. After the pit maneuver was done, the vehicle came to a halt on the side of the road, just off the roadway of I-95 northbound, just south of Orange Avenue. The suspect exited the vehicle at that time with a gun pointed at his head, and that remained pretty much constant throughout the incident for the next couple hours. I-95 was shut down between Orange Avenue and Okeechobee Road, obviously to protect the public and keep anybody from being in danger during the incident. Our partners at the Martin County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff John Boonseek, I want to thank him, provided aviation unit support overhead, which captured the incident and provided us the necessary intelligence throughout the incident. Our crisis negotiators and the SWAT team from the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office quickly responded to the scene and took over the inner perimeter of that in the negotiations with the suspect. He was intermittently communicating with us throughout via phone and also just verbally. Our negotiators were trying to speak to him, trying to de-escalate the situation, but he repeatedly exited and re-entered the vehicle, again with that gun placed at his head. At one point, the suspect advised there was an additional firearm inside the vehicle, and again, our negotiators just continually worked to try to de-escalate that. I can't stress that enough. That's what we're trained to do. That's what they were doing out there, trying to get this to a peaceful situation. As noted before, he was wanted and suspected of a homicide in Palm Beach County that occurred just earlier to us getting in contact with this suspect. But at about 1:13 a.m. on August 12th today, the suspect exited the vehicle again armed and advanced towards our deputies. Our SWAT team, using direct impact, less lethal munitions, struck the suspect several times. Unfortunately, this did not stop him. He did drop the gun, but immediately picked it back up and pointed it at our deputies, at which time they really had no other choice but to engage the suspect. Several shots were fired. 4 of our deputies were involved in the shooting of this suspect. And St. Lucie County Fire Rescue, our partners there at the fire district, they were already staged nearby. They immediately, once the situation was secured, came in, and the suspect was pronounced deceased at about 1:22 a.m. As stated earlier, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement is conducting an investigation with our partners at the 19th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office. As with all shootings in our area, they are brought to a grand jury following the investigation. But I just can't tell you how proud I am to see these deputies, these troopers, perform the way they did under such tough situations. I mean, this is what they trained to do. This is why we put all that time, all that effort, all that training, that discipline to make sure we're ready for situations like this. And I'm just so proud of them, and I look forward to seeing I saw them all last night. Just want to make sure they feel supported. There's obviously procedures we have to go through as an agency, through an investigation, make sure we're being transparent. But we are not going to release the names at this time right now. And we're just going to make sure they're taken care of and making sure we get them back to work as quickly as possible. So with that, we'll both entertain any questions you might have and do the best we can to answer them. Tyler?
Just to confirm, was it FHP or was it St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office that shot the suspect, terminated him?
So there were multiple deputies, 4 deputies, and 3 troopers involved in the shooting. As far as the number of rounds that were shot, who's responsible, that's all going to be taken care of by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
So it was a combination of both FHP
Correct.
and deputies?
Yes. Well,
So then 7 law enforcement officials discharged their firearms in the direction of the suspect.
based on what we know right now, that's correct.
What's the name of the suspect?
I do not have that name right now, or I can't release it. They have not notified the next of kin. I would refer you down to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office for that information, since he is a homicide suspect in that case. And eventually, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, in our case, would probably release that to you as well.
You said you were speaking to the suspect. You know, was the suspect saying anything to you guys? Can you release any information he was telling you? Was he saying anything when he got out of the car?
Obviously, he's suspected in a homicide investigation. He was very agitated, very irritated. You know, very difficult to deal with. So this wasn't like you were dealing with a calm person. This person was at basically a very high level and very difficult to communicate with. I give our negotiators a lot of credit because it takes a lot of calm, a lot of poise to deal with those type of situations, and repeatedly just try again to de-escalate this, to try to get it to you know, a different conclusion.
Obviously, he had a gun to his head. Was he threatening to kill himself at that time?
Well, I think that's just implied, the fact that guns to your head, but you got to remember something. As a law enforcement officer, when we're trained, that could quickly get pointed at you very quickly, and you have to make a split-second decision, you know, which our deputies did. And I'm very proud of them for doing that. That's what they're trained to do. We're going home at night at the end of the day. And you know what, like I said, I'm just thankful that we have the training that we do, the discipline we do, and you know, it could have been a much different outcome had we not done those things.
Sheriff, can I ask you,
Yes, ma'am.
You said that you applied non-lethal method to try
Yes.
to, can you explain what that was and how it was?
Yeah, so our SWAT teams are equipped with obviously, you know, firearms, but also less lethal, like tasers. In this case here, it was basically a 40 millimeter impact weapon, kind of like a rubber impact weapon that can get discharged at somebody, striking them in the body with the hopes of getting them in compliance. He was struck several times, but that just, you know, he dropped the weapon again, picked the weapon back up, pointed it at the deputies, at which time they had, you know, had no other choice but to do what they did. Yes.
Sheriff, you touched on this. I mean, there was multiple agencies involved in this pursuit. I mean, if you can just kind of touch upon what it really takes to make sure everyone stays safe and to really make sure that this type of incident is secure and, again, make sure everyone stays safe.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, again, going back to training, you know, pursuits are very high liability, they're very fast-paced. Communication is the key, making sure we're getting correct information. Our agencies work very well together. You know, we don't sit here and operate in silos. We work with FHP every single day, backing them up, they back us up. I want to make sure they're safe, working with our partners in Martin County, Indian River County. You know, Indian River County, thankful to Sheriff Eric Flowers for him sending down his crime scene to assist us last night as well. So, you know, it's just very important that everybody's working together. A lot of our tactics are very similar. So, you know, we assimilate very well together. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's just about making sure we keep the public safe, keep our deputies and troopers safe and our officers safe. And unfortunately, this person made a decision that, you know, ultimately cost him his life.
Did the did the suspect, I suppose, fire at the troopers and deputies?
I've heard a lot of different things. I'd rather let FDLE answer that question because, you know, there's a lot of footage that needs to be reviewed from body-worn cameras. They have to obviously interview the deputies themselves. I was not directly at the scene last night, so I don't want to give you misinformation on that.
You mentioned the,
Sorry.
Any way, anything you can release today, or that's gonna be the FDLE?
That's going to come from FDLE since it's their investigation right now, and they've been doing, I mean, just, you can imagine, 7 people involved, multiple witnesses involved, multiple agencies involved. There's a lot of things they have to collect. So they're just doing a great job. Very thankful for them stepping up and handling this investigation and giving it an independent look.
And you said it was 2 hours of negotiating, so at that time he was not pointing the weapon at anyone, and you know why, I know escalated him to actually point it again after 2 hours of talking with you.
You know, I always say you can't rationalize irrational behavior. I mean, this is someone who's suspected of committing a homicide, who took another person's life. So he obviously was not in the right state of mind to begin with. And, you know, the fact is we were trying to de-escalate it with negotiators. We tried less lethal options. That didn't work. And he escalated to the point by not surrendering, not putting down the weapon that, you know, ultimately led to this situation. Yes. I'll come back to you.
Sheriff, I just want to confirm, you said that the suspect said there was another firearm in the vehicle? But do we know what type of firearm that was?
No, I do not. No.
you just want to clarify about the less lethal munitions. You mentioned the 40 millimeter. Is that what people would perhaps commonly refer to as a beanbag round, or?
So a beanbag round is usually like a shotgun type of round. This is more of a, kind of like the size of almost like the tennis ball, but more dense. And so, I mean, you know, in my career, I've used them before. We've used them in training. I mean, they're pretty good, but again, when someone is at that heightened level with adrenaline, and who knows if he's on any other type of substances, we don't know. They can be effective, they can't be, but you know, they
so
attempted
like a 40
to.
millimeter besides ball, for lack of a better, just to
Similar, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You said this standoff took 2 hours about?
Approximately 2 hours.
I mean, what does the length tell you about how much you guys really wanted to make sure this ended peacefully, that you were still trying to negotiate with the suspect, even with this 2-hour long?
Well, I think, you know, based on what we've talked about so far, you know, we tried to stop the pursuit as quickly as possible, as low a speed as possible. That happened. Negotiating with this individual, not working. Use less lethal. So, I mean, I think, you know, we're showing a pattern that we are trying to take this person into custody without incident. Unfortunately, you know, he raised it to a level where we had to, you know, use deadly force. And I feel very confident that force is justified. And again, a grand jury is going to decide that. But I am, based on what I know, what I've seen, what I've researched, this doesn't get, you know, much cleaner than this. And these deputies, these troopers just did a tremendous job. And you know, the right time, they need to be celebrated for doing their jobs the right way. And I'm going to make sure that happens.
Do you know when the last officer, like fatal shooting, where an officer or deputy fatally shot someone in St. Lucie County was, at least from you guys' agency, was?
I do not recall. I know I think there was one in the previous year, but I wasn't here during that time.
Suspect adult male, adult female?
Adult male, correct. Any other questions? Any other questions for the chief?
Can you say what kind of gun?
I don't know.
Or if
Handgun.
the car was stolen?
I don't know that. Yes, sir.
Did car receive any damage? I mean, obviously the pit maneuver, but did it cause any damage as it was going up I-95?
It caused a little bit of damage to a light pole, I think, that it struck afterwards, but it was immobilized off the side of the road. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate you being here today.
And we do real quick, we're going to invite Lieutenant Indian and Miranda up. She's going to give some talking points for our Spanish media outlets, if that's acceptable.
Is there any Spanish media outlets here or any sister agencies?